I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My stepmother, Clara, was sitting across from me at the massive oak dining table, a smug smile plastered across her face. "You heard me right, Amelia," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You're getting engaged. To someone special." I could feel the tension in the air. My father sat silently, staring at the plate in front of him, his knuckles white as he gripped his fork. He didn't say a word. He never did when Clara took control. "Who is it?" I demanded, my voice trembling. Clara's eyes gleamed with malice. "Oh, just a humble man. He doesn't have much, but he's perfect for someone like you." Her tone made it clear she thought I was beneath her. I felt my stomach drop. Clara had always despised me since the day she married my father. She made my life a living nightmare, but this was a new level of cruelty. The next morning, I was forced into an unflattering dress and dragged to the town square. Clara had insisted on a public announcement. As the crowd gathered, she dramatically waved her hand toward a man sitting on the steps of the old church. He was dressed in tattered clothes, his face hidden beneath a hood. He looked like a beggar. "Meet your fiancé," Clara declared loudly, her voice echoing across the square. "Samuel." The crowd gasped. Whispers rippled through them, and I felt my cheeks flush with shame. My stepmother's plan was clear. Humiliate me, ruin my reputation, and remind me I was nothing in her eyes. But as I turned to look at Samuel, I noticed something strange. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was a quiet confidence in the way he stood up, as if he didn't care what anyone thought. After the spectacle, Clara made her intentions clear. She cornered me in the hallway, her lips curling into a satisfied smirk. "This is what happens when you step out of line, Amelia," she hissed. "You think you're better than me? Think again. You'll marry that beggar, or I'll make sure you and your father are thrown out on the streets." I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I knew she had all the power. Instead, I went to Samuel. I had to know who he was and why he was going along with this. "What's in it for you?" I demanded when we were alone. He looked at me, his eyes sharp and piercing despite his ragged appearance. "Let's just say, I owe someone a favor. But don't worry, Amelia. I won't make this any harder for you than it already is." There was something cryptic about his words, something that hinted at a bigger story. I didn't trust him, but I didn't have a choice. The engagement party was a spectacle of fake smiles and whispered insults. Clara made sure everyone knew about my humble fiancé, reveling in the humiliation it brought me. Samuel, however, was an enigma. He mingled effortlessly with the crowd, his charm disarming even the most skeptical guests. It didn't make sense. How could a beggar carry himself with such grace and confidence? By the end of the night, I realized Clara's plan wasn't going as smoothly as she'd hoped. People were starting to question Samuel's story, and Clara's smugness began to falter. A week later, I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. Samuel had left a notebook on the table, and curiosity got the better of me. Inside were detailed notes, maps, and what looked like blueprints of some kind. "What are you up to?" I muttered, flipping through the pages. Before I could make sense of it, Samuel appeared in the doorway. His expression was calm, but there was an edge to his voice when he said, "That's private." I slammed the notebook shut, my heart racing. "Who are you, really?" He didn't answer. Instead, he took the notebook and walked away, leaving me with more questions than answers. Clara's patience was wearing thin. She stormed into my room one evening, her face twisted with rage. "Why aren't you miserable?" she snapped. "I gave you the worst possible fiancé, and yet you're fine. What's going on?" I stared at her, a small spark of defiance flaring inside me. "Maybe you underestimated me, Clara. Or maybe you underestimated him." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't respond. She left the room, slamming the door behind her. One night, unable to sleep, I heard voices coming from the study. Quietly, I crept down the hall and pressed my ear to the door. "Everything is in place," Samuel was saying. "She'll never see it coming." "Good," a deep voice replied. "She deserves what's coming to her." My heart pounded. Who are they talking about? Clara? Me? I had to find out, but I couldn't risk getting caught. Samuel's behavior grew increasingly suspicious. He was always disappearing at odd hours, and when he thought no one was looking, his demeanor shifted. The carefree beggar facade melted away, revealing someone calculating, someone dangerous. I decided to follow him one evening, desperate to uncover the truth. As the sun set, I trailed him through the winding streets of our village. He stopped in front of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, glanced around, and slipped inside. My heart thundered in my chest as I crept closer. Peering through a crack in the old wooden door, I saw Samuel standing with 3 men, all dressed sharply, their appearances a stark contrast to his usual disheveled look. "It's almost time," one of them said. "Are you sure she won't suspect anything?" Samuel smirked. "She has no idea." I stumbled back, my mind racing. Who's he talking about? Was this all some elaborate scheme against me? When Samuel returned that night, I was waiting for him. "Where were you?" I demanded, my arms crossed, refusing to let the fear in my chest show. He hesitated, his calm facade cracking for just a moment. "Out. Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I followed you. I know you're not who you say you are." His eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of anger. But instead of denying it, he let out a low chuckle. "You're more observant than I thought," he said. "But be careful, Amelia. Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than you realize." His cryptic words only fueled my determination. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to stop until I got them. While I was unraveling Samuel's secrets, Clara's frustration with me was boiling over. She could sense that her plan wasn't having the desired effect. One afternoon, she cornered me in the garden, her sharp nails digging into my arm. "What's going on between you and that man?" she hissed. "You're hiding something." I yanked my arm away, meeting her glare with one of my own. "You're the one who brought him into my life. Maybe you should have done your research." Her face darkened, but she didn't say anything. I could see the seeds of doubt taking root in her mind, and it gave me a small sense of satisfaction. The turning point came a week later. I was rummaging through the attic, searching for some old papers Clara had ordered me to find, when I stumbled upon a locked chest. It was covered in dust, forgotten in the corner. Curiosity got the better of me. I found a small key nearby and opened the chest. Inside were documents, letters, and photographs that made my blood run cold. The letters detailed Clara's shady dealings, blackmail, bribes, and worse. But what shocked me most was a photograph of Samuel. He wasn't in rags. He was dressed in an expensive suit, standing next to a man I recognized as one of the wealthiest businessmen in the region. I clutched the photo, my mind reeling. Samuel wasn't just pretending to be someone he wasn't. He was involved in something far bigger than I'd imagined. That night, I confronted Samuel with the photo. His reaction was telling. He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed and sat down, running a hand through his hair. "I suppose it's time I told you the truth," he said. He revealed that he wasn't a beggar, but an undercover operative working to expose Clara's corruption. The engagement was a ruse to get close to her and uncover evidence against her. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because the less you knew, the safer you were," he replied. "Clara is more dangerous than you think." Despite my anger at being kept in the dark, I knew I couldn't trust Clara. Samuel's revelations only confirmed what I'd always suspected. Clara was ruthless, and she would stop at nothing to protect her secrets. Reluctantly, I agreed to help him. Together, we began piecing together the evidence, combing through the documents I'd found in the attic and tracking Clara's movements. The more we uncovered, the more dangerous the situation became. Clara wasn't one to sit idly by. She sensed that something was amiss and began tightening her grip on the household. She fired loyal staff members, replaced them with her own people, and kept a close watch on me. One night, she burst into my room, her eyes blazing with fury. "I know you're hiding something," she spat. "But mark my words, Amelia, whatever you're planning, it won't work." Her threat sent a chill down my spine, but I refused to back down. As we edged closer to the truth, Samuel and I realized we were playing a dangerous game. Clara's connections ran deep, and every move we made put us at greater risk. One evening, Samuel pulled me aside, his expression serious. "We have to be careful," he said. "Clara isn't just a manipulative stepmother. She's involved with people who wouldn't hesitate to hurt us if we get too close." Despite his warning, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of something big. As the plan to expose Clara neared its critical stage, I started to notice cracks in Samuel's unflappable exterior. There were moments when his calm confidence gave way to unease. One night, I overheard him speaking in hushed tones on the phone. His words were vague, but something about his tone sent a chill down my spine. "Everything's under control," he said. "She trusts me." Was he talking about me? Doubt crept in, and I began to question everything. What if Samuel wasn't who he claimed to be? What if he was playing me, just as Clara had done for years? Clara, ever the master manipulator, wasn't going down without a fight. She had her own sources and quickly caught wind of my growing alliance with Samuel. She called me in her study one evening, her demeanor unnervingly calm. "Amelia," she began, her voice dripping with insincere warmth, "I know you think you're clever, but you're in over your head. Samuel isn't your savior. He's your downfall." I froze, my heart pounding. Did she know about our plan? Was Samuel truly deceiving me, or was this another one of her mind games? "You think he cares about you," she continued, her smirk widening. "He's just using you to get to me." Clara's words planted a seed of doubt that grew like a weed. That night, I confronted Samuel. "Are you using me?" I demanded, my voice trembling with anger and fear. "Is this all just a game to you?" He looked genuinely hurt, his expression softening. "Amelia, I swear to you, everything I've done has been to protect you." But the doubt lingered. I wanted to believe him, but after years of being manipulated by Clara, trusting anyone felt impossible. The next day, I went to retrieve the documents from the attic, only to find the chest empty. Panic surged through me. Clara must have discovered it and removed the evidence. When I told Samuel, he cursed under his breath. "This complicates things. Without that evidence, we don't have a case." Desperation clawed at me. We were so close to bringing Clara down, but now it felt like we were back to square one. Samuel devised a bold plan. We would infiltrate Clara's private office to find the missing documents. It was dangerous, but we had no other choice. Late that night, we crept into the study. My heart pounded as we rifled through drawers and cabinets, searching for anything that could incriminate Clara. Just as I uncovered a hidden compartment, the door creaked open. Clara stood there, her face a mask of fury. "What do you think you're doing?" Clara's voice was cold and sharp, slicing through the tension like a knife. Samuel stepped forward, shielding me. "We know everything, Clara. Your lies, your corruption, it's all over." She laughed, the sound devoid of humor. "You think you've won? You have no idea what you're dealing with." Before we could react, two of her henchmen appeared, blocking the doorway. We were trapped. Samuel acted fast. Grabbing a heavy bookend from the desk, he threw it at one of the men, creating a momentary distraction. "Run," he shouted, pulling me toward the window. We climbed out just as the men lunged for us, narrowly escaping into the night. My heart raced as we sprinted through the dark streets, Clara's threats echoing in my ears. The next morning, Samuel revealed a surprising twist. He had an ally, a journalist named Henry, who had been investigating Clara for years. Henry agreed to help us expose Clara, providing a safe house and resources to continue our fight. "Clara's empire is built on fear and manipulation," Henry said. "But every empire has its cracks." With Henry's help, we began piecing together a new case against Clara. We tracked her financial transactions, interviewed former victims, and gathered enough evidence to bring her down. But Clara wasn't giving up easily. She launched a smear campaign against me, spreading lies to ruin my reputation. The day of reckoning arrived. Armed with the evidence, we presented our findings to the authorities. Clara was arrested during a lavish party she had thrown to celebrate her supposed victory. As the police led her away in handcuffs, she glared at me. "This isn't over, Amelia. You'll regret this." But for the first time, her threats didn't scare me. I had won. After Clara's arrest, Samuel revealed his full story. He wasn't just an undercover operative. He was the heir to a vast fortune. His mission to expose Clara had been personal. She had destroyed his family years ago. "I owed it to them to make things right," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. With Clara gone, my life began to change. The house felt lighter, freer. I finally started to heal from the years of abuse and manipulation. Samuel stayed by my side, his presence a source of strength and comfort. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity for Clara. She had been consumed by her own greed and bitterness, ultimately leading to her downfall. But I refused to let her shadow linger over my life any longer. Samuel and I decided to rebuild, not just our lives, but also the lives of those Clara had hurt. Together, we created a foundation to help victims of abuse and corruption, turning our pain into purpose. Looking back, I realized that everything I had endured had led me to this moment. Clara's cruelty had shaped me, but it didn't define me. I was stronger, braver, and ready to face whatever came next. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free.